Okay, let's dive in. We're unpacking the MERN Stack today, which for a lot of developers is basically the whole package for modern web apps. It's a full stack JavaScript solution. And the big takeaway here is that mastering it gives you a skill set that's, well, it's central to building almost anything serious on the web today.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here is that MERN isn't just, popular. It's built from the ground up for serious performance. You see huge companies like Netflix, Airbnb, and Uber using these technologies. But the why, the real insight, is all about Node.js. It uses this non-blocking, event-driven model.
Right.
So, it can handle tons of requests at the same time without getting stuck waiting. That's the key performance driver right there.
So it's built to multitask. That makes a lot of sense. So what do we actually mean when we say MERN? Let's break down those 4 pillars. M is for MongoDB. That's the database, right?
Exactly. It's a NoSQL document-based database. So instead of these rigid tables you might be used to, it stores data in flexible, JSON-like documents.
And that flexibility helps with speed.
It absolutely does. Then E is Express.js, a super minimalist framework that runs on Node. It's designed specifically to get back-end APIs up and running fast. And R is React.js.
The front end, the part everyone sees.
And very same, the go-to library for building dynamic, reusable user interfaces.
And finally, N is Node.js itself. That's the runtime that lets you actually run JavaScript on the server, which completes the whole loop, so the architectural flow is just completely seamless.
It really is. Your React client asks for data. It hits the server, which is Node and Express, which then grabs a document from MongoDB and sends the response all the way back. It's JavaScript from end to end, and the setup is incredibly quick. A few commands and you've got Express, Mongoose, and your other backend pieces installed. But I think it's important to say this speed sometimes means people stop at the basics, Just simple CRU-die create, read, update, delete.
That setup sounds fast, but I have to ask, doesn't having 2 separate processes, Node and MongoDB, introduce some kind of latency or complexity? Is the speed really worth splitting the architecture like that?
That's a really important question. The complexity is managed because MongoDB is basically designed to work with Node's asynchronous style. They kind of speak the same language. And because it's document-based, the data structure already mirrors what your Node server and React client expect. It cuts down on translation time.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, right? Moving past that simple structure into something. Real world. Let's talk scale. When you define a data model, say a simple student schema with a name, age, and course, that structure starts to demand better organization and security.
Absolutely. Security is foundational. You immediately have to move into things like JWT authentication.
So tokens.
Right. We're securing user sessions with signed tokens instead of just relying on old school cookies. And of course, hashing passwords with something strong like encrypt.
And as the app gets more complex, you need more structure. On the front end, that means state management tools like Redux or ZooStand to handle data across the whole application. And on the back end, you might start with an MVC model, view, controller structure, but bigger systems pretty quickly move toward a microservices architecture.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, microservices just means breaking that one big Node server into lots of smaller, specialized services that talk to each other. It's how you keep massive, high-traffic applications from becoming a nightmare to manage.
You also mentioned using validation tools like Joy or Zod. For a small team, doesn't that feel like a lot of extra work up front? Can you just skip that step early on?
You can, but you really shouldn't. Data integrity is non-negotiable. Using Zod or Joy to validate input guarantees that bad data never even touches your database. It saves so much debugging time later on, and best practice also demands storing secrets in .env files. That's another one of those non-negotiable steps.
And once it's all built, you have to launch it. The standard path for that pairs front-end services like Netlify or Vercel,
which are great for static React apps,
with back-end hosting like Render or Railway for the secure Node server.
So yeah, the MERN Stack is modern, flexible, and just immensely powerful. When you master the architecture and these advanced ideas around security and decomposition, you're ready to build pretty much anything.
So with that foundation in mind, here's something to think about. How would you structure a really complex real-world project, like a full e-commerce app or an event booking platform, using MERN? Specifically, which service, maybe user authentication or payment processing, would be the very first one you'd break out of the monolith to become its own microservice?